All right, welcome to the first episode of the podcast. My name is Miguel Cruz. I'll be the host. I'll ask the questions, and hopefully, I'll learn a lot from my first guest, Donnie. Donnie, why don't you introduce yourself to the podcast?
I am Donnie. That's what a lot of people call me. My actual name is Donovan, but I don't know. One thing about me is I really don't care what people call me. Donnie, Donovan, D, whatever. But I used to be at Fox River. I served as the electric guitar player. I was a worship leader there. I also was an audio engineer, a lighting designer, and the student worship coordinator. And so I kind of had my hands all over the place. And so I said now I am the audio director at a church called Christ Community Church. And, it's been cool, just to be still young and be able to just get out of mom and dad's house and just kind of be on my own journey.
Awesome. Yeah, so um, Donnie and I met at Fox River earlier this year, well, probably unofficially in January, officially in around March or April. So you know, we're we were still just getting to know each other, and then he told me that he was moving to Illinois. But Donnie and I and another friend of ours, Isaac, who could not make the first podcast, um, we stay in touch. We collaboratively songwrite and make videos and do things like that to keep the creative juices flowing, even from far away. It's a nice thing about things like Zoom, and phone calls and things like that. Donnie, can you tell us how was your transition? For those who don't know, Fox River is a larger church in the Wisconsin area. We do have three campuses, one in Waukesha, one in Muskego, and another in Waterford. And each campus varies by size and service amount. But you took kind of a bigger step when you moved to Illinois. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I did, yeah. And so Christ Community, we have five campuses. The majority of our campuses house, I would say, around 300 to 500 people. A couple of them are smaller, but at our main campus, the St. Charles campus, which is where I'm at, we have a auditorium that seats, I believe, 2,500. And so it was kind of it was a little overwhelming transitioning from Fox River, which is a larger church, as Miguel said, to a much larger church, and so there's just a lot more room to play with toys and a lot more room for growth. And so, I mean, overall, the transition's been good. It's been pretty smooth. The team here, it's a great team, and that always makes things a lot easier.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we wanted to jump in to the first topic for this new podcast. Christmas is in 2 days, so a lot of you guys who are members or volunteers at your churches probably are really tired right now, and you're either getting ready to finish up your Christmas services or just starting them. And something that was kind of amazing to me and also kind of funny was when Donnie transitioned. I think the first video I got of his experience there was a Christmas recording, and this was back in what month was that?
That was October.
October. So October, when most people are getting the pumpkins out and carving them, Donnie and his church in Illinois are preparing for Christmas. Tell us a little bit about that. Tell us about where you broadcast your service on Christmas and all that stuff.
Yeah, so we were recording our TV special, and so we'll be broadcasting what we recorded on in October on CBS Chicago. So if you're in the Chicagoland area, definitely tune into that and just watch. Off the top of my head, I don't know what time it's at, but it'll be on CBS Chicago. For us, broadcasting for Facebook and all that, Facebook, YouTube, and a couple other platforms, we are going to just be streaming our in-person service. And so it's kind of cool to be able to do two different things. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be great. It's going to be fun. We got to watch the final cut of it as a team the other day, and it turned out a lot better than any of us thought. And I'm saying that as somebody who walked in the week that my first week was us recording it, so I didn't really do anything on the planning side of it, but just to be a part of that experience was cool. And I think that the experience for people who watch it is definitely going to be something else as well.
It's definitely really awesome to hear. I personally have not had anything to do with planning for Christmas this year, but I'm definitely busy. Going from 6 services at our Waukesha campus between December 23rd and December 24th, and doing, uh, along with my cousin at a different church in Oak Creek, a worship night that's a Christmas slash regular worship night. And the dress rehearsals, it's just been kind of crazy around here. I've been at church quite a bit, even between those days. But I kind of wanted to take some time to reflect, and it's really easy to take this time and complain and be grumpy. But I wanted to take some time and reflect about a lot of the truths in the songs that we're singing as a church, as a congregation, and that's as a church united. The churches that you guys are all attending, Donnie's attending. So I wanted to do something kind of fun and ask you if you could pick out your one top one to top three favorite worship songs that you've either gotten to play either this year or the last couple of years, or that you've gotten to be been able to mix or just listen to. That's kind of really brought out the meaning of Christmas in your heart.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So I think for songs that I have gotten to mix, I'm going to break the rule here a little bit. It's a song that I will be mixing on Christmas. We're doing a rendition of "Go Tell It on the Mountain" by Zach Williams. I think that's his name.
Yeah.
The guy who sings "Chainbreaker," and it's a very unique kind of rendition of it, like funky, and it's got a little bit of a country twang to it as well. And so it'll be cool just to be able to, as a sound guy, play with all the musical aspects of it. Songs that I've gotten to play, ooh, I've played so many songs that there's really no like top song that I can think of. Okay, so this is a song that I can play in my sleep now, and it's a song that like we have dubbed the Donovan song back when I was at Fox River, because I played it as the only guitarist on stage, and I played both the EG1 and the EG2 parts. But Raise a Hallelujah. There's the chugging part and then the accent part with the dotted eighth, and so that was one song that I had to do. Not I shouldn't say had to, but that was one song that I did a lot of the times at the only guitarist, and so I mean it's a great song to play. It's also just a great song in general.
Yeah, definitely. Lots of truth in that song. Love playing it. I got to play it with two guitar players recently, but usually, yeah, you're playing both parts. Um, I feel like that's the scenario at a lot of churches, especially with tracks. A lot of EG1 and EG2 that's kind of gone away in favor of just one guy playing all the parts. For me, I really, really love Jeremy Riddle's version of Hark the Herald Angels Sing. The parts are fun. There's truth in that song. It's probably a song you could play all year round. And we actually got to play it with Ben Fuller. He was a guest at Fox River right after Thanksgiving. So we started with Christmas pretty early. We started throwing in some Christmas songs right away. That same afternoon, we recorded our Christmas service for the 26th. And I think I was getting some texts earlier. They're actually wrapping up the recording for that now. So we're working down to the wire to get everything nice and tight for the rest of this week to go smoothly. And when it comes to things going smoothly, I wonder, being at a bigger church, what's the difference between like putting together a set to play, putting together a set on the planning end at a church like Fox River, and then going to a larger church with 3 times the amount of staff and a whole bunch more campuses? Is there extra stress? Do you feel a little bit more weight, or do you feel, how are you feeling it this time of year?
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to a question that I got asked a lot, in the sense of you're going on to a full-time director role. Does that mean that you're going to be doing a lot more work? And a lot of it is no. I mean, it's there's a lot of the back end work of making sure that the console and whatnot are set up for volunteers, and like the space is set up for volunteers. But it's just a lot more responsibility. And so overall, I mean, like now I'm feeling a lot less overwhelmed and stressed than a lot of times, because Like at Fox River, it's you have to focus on because there wasn't as many staff there. You had to focus on a lot of different things at the same time, and so you kind of feel like you're stretching yourself thin. And so now it's kind of been unique to be able to only focus on audio, and like when I need to help our scenic designer with like anything that he needs on the stage, and a lot of times I find myself like looking for things to do. So I know that like me, there's a lot of times where people like they just truly have a heart for ministry, and they want to do everything they can to serve. But I think a big point and a big focus that a lot of people miss is, there's times where we need to just kind of take a step back and relax to just kind of regather ourselves again. Just because, like I've heard it in the comparison, like think of us as a battery, right? There's only so much that we can go and so much that we can do before we run out of juice, and so you got to take time to recharge, regather ourselves, and it's important, especially when you're working at the church, because especially when you're a leader in the church, you're somebody who a lot of people look at, and they look to for answers, and so you want to make sure that you're capable of providing people with answers, but also like being at your best. Nobody's perfect at all. Like nobody is perfect. Nobody should claim that they're perfect. Everybody's got rough days, but I think it's important that we take responsibility in making sure that we have time to regather.
Absolutely. I think that's definitely it's a lost art, um, especially this time of year. You
Yeah.
can you can easily catch yourself working 7 days a week, and then you realize the body's designed for rest. I've been catching myself with that where I'll stay up late editing a video or even doing something that's maybe not the healthiest for me, like playing a video game, and then I wake up exhausted for work or not as gathered as I could be. And a lot of times I think we value, and I don't think a certain person does. I think just as a culture we value being on time and being prepared, and then we forget that we should probably also value showing up prayed up and ready for the service, because I've personally never been a worship leader, but you've been between audio to playing guitar to being a worship leader at various services. The devil's ready to attack, and sometimes it's with the slightest. Hey, the mix is sounding bad, or hey, it's too loud. And sometimes it's hey, the songs you picked were bad and they're not theologically correct, and you've got to decide right then and there if you want to love them the way Jesus would, or maybe choose a different option. And it's tough if you show up and you're tired and you're not prayed up and you're just there to fill a role and to play a part. Like I said, especially this Christmas time, as we're getting ready to wrap up, I don't want to leave just yet without hearing some tips when it comes to your transition, or tips when it comes to serving audio, guitar, vocals. Like how are you able to do that? I know a lot of people feel that they were made to be on stage and they're good at it, but they just love being behind the scenes. And I just want to hear from you, like if anyone out there is in that predicament, maybe you're the best singer at your church, but secretly you're also the best audio guy at your church, and maybe they have 10 singers but 2 audio guys. Like, when do you make that decision? Does it involve prayer, or does it involve just like what does that look like?
Yeah, and it involves so much prayer. Like for me, making this switch took a lot of prayer. As somebody who, like Miguel said, was coming from being on stage a lot, but also mixing and designing lights. Audio was something that I really felt called to like fully pursue, and that's a big thing. When you feel like you're called to do something, you might be hesitant, like I was in the beginning of making my decision to come down here to Christ Community. But at the end of the day, you're being called for a reason, And so listen to that calling, because like for me, a big reason why I just I felt like this was the right move was I was actually in an accident in June where I was in very rough shape. I had a skull fracture and 3 brain bleeds, and that was in the process of me in the interview process for this job, and so that had happened. But as soon as I like got out of the hospital and recovered, this Christ community still reached back out to me and said, "Hey, if you're still wanting the job, we still want you," and whatnot. And I'm like, that is a true calling. And so I would just encourage you guys, don't ignore the calling that you're being drawn toward, whether that is on the stage, serving in the nursery, serving on the tech team, anywhere. And I even say this goes outside of ministry too, like just in our own walks of life. If you're feeling called to do something, like to take your next step forward, I would encourage you guys to heavily consider taking that step and listening to that calling.
That's awesome. I really appreciate that. I'm sure a lot of people, can hear that, and that might freak them out. I would also encourage you, if that freaks you out, pray about it, because if it doesn't freak you out, you're probably not called to ministry. But if that scares you and that makes you like hesitant to go play guitar next week, that might be God calling you to do this full time, and that looks different to everybody. I've been told that some people are called to do this full time every day. Some people are called to do this full time every day, get paid for it, and that just is what it is. That's not; those are not mutually exclusive things. Some people are called to work 9 to 5 and to serve on the weekends once a month, twice a month, and do other things within the church as well. So, like Donnie said, if God has the door in front of you, He's not gonna take your hand and unlock it too. You've got to put your hand out, see if God has unlocked the door for you, pray about it, and walk through and see what happens. I wanted to thank Donnie again for being the first guest on this podcast. Definitely got some good insight. Had some fun talks about some Christmas stuff. I hope you've got fun plans.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll even see you in Wisconsin since your family's still here. I hope everyone has a great Christmas time. If you enjoy this podcast and you want to see episode 2, consider liking, subscribing, and share it to any friends you have in ministry. Take care, guys.
See ya.